Starbucks versus Dunkin Donuts versus Tree House. Let's compare. Welcome back to the channel. In front of me I have some coffees that we thought were the closest comparisons to our monochrome classic black coffee and our house latte, which is an oat milk latte. Of course, these aren't direct comparisons. The black coffee is probably closer, but we wanted to compare what you can find on the mass market to what you can get directly if you come here to Tree House. What we're going to do is I'm going to turn around. I'm going to have Michael pour one each of the dark coffees into this glass, and then I'm going to give you my impressions. All right, so one clearly has more nitrogen than the other. Starbucks one, I did look at the can before we did the tasting, and it's marketed as a nitrogenized cold brew. Our cold brew is actually not marketed as nitrogenized, although we do use a significant dose of nitrogen in the can. So diving right in, this guy here on the right appears a fair amount darker. If you look at my glass on your right, I can see some ruby edges, whereas this coffee here on the right looks very, very dark toward the edge. But I'm actually curious, I don't know which one is which. If I had to guess, the darker one with the creamier foam would be the Starbucks. And so yeah, let's give them a taste. Wow, those are way different. This coffee on your left smells really, really burnt, very acrid and sort of bitter. This coffee on your right, my left, is wicked bright, wicked fresh, very fruity, very full, and just more complex smelling, whereas this is single note, kind of burnt, kind of acrid, potentially over roasted. Nice on the flavor. I had thought that based on the aroma, it might be a little more bitter and acrid, and on the flavor, it's decently chocolatey, excuse me. I don't know that I get much from the nitro. I mean, appearance-wise, it looks really, really nice, but on the kind of on the flavor, I'm not getting a lot going on there. Single note, very nice, very pleasant, not too bitter, not too off-putting. Very, very little acidity, almost no acidity. If you like any juiciness in your coffee at all, this guy doesn't have much of it. Wow, super complex. I'm getting like milk chocolate, caramel, very, very full body. Texture is really nice, and there's a decent amount of acidity. It's not off-putting, but it just makes it really fill your mouth and taste really nice. I'm almost 1000% certain that this particular glass here is monochrome, and this glass here is the Starbucks Nitro Cold Brew. I will say, depending on what flavor profile you like, this particular cold brew is fine. It's one note, it's very potent, and aromatically it's not very interesting, whereas this guy has a ton of complexity. It's very bright and it tastes very fresh to me.
How much does a can of monochrome cost?
It's $3 a can for monochrome. And this guy, that's a good question. So the Starbucks can, I've got my handy dandy receipt right here. Starbucks can is $3.69. So you can buy this guy direct for $3, and this guy was $3.69 at Stop and Shop here in Charlton. So this was interesting. I wish we actually had more of these. Again, the Starbucks is good. It's just very single note, right to the point, where this guy has a ton of complexity and the freshness to it is very apparent. All right, next. Good to go. Okay, these actually, with the studio lights in my face, these actually look quite similar. It's not a direct comparison. It's just to say, hey, here's a coffee-based product that has sort of a milk-based product in it, or a dairy or dairy alternative in this case. Our product has an oat milk in it with monochrome, actually, the black coffee that we just tasted, and then the one that I'm comparing it to, Dunkin Donuts, I believe, is just their standard roast. So let's give these guys a taste, smell. Really weird. It smells like, this is kind of a vivid story, but I used to go to Jiffy Lube and they would have like coffee at Jiffy Lube with the Coffee Mate creamer. And you kind of dump as much Coffee Mate creamer in there as you possibly could to make it palatable. This is what this reminds me of. And this guy, yeah, this isn't a very fun comparison because it's very easy to tell the difference, but at least we can talk about how they're different. Very clearly, this is the Dunkin Donuts. This is our oat milk latte here on your right. I'm gonna try to be diplomatic on this guy. I don't particularly care for it. I taste a lot of sweetness. I taste a lot of like milky characteristics, but I don't actually taste any fruitiness or any chocolate character that I would expect from a coffee. It's very, very, very sweet, very one note. And the sweetness is with the milk or whatever is in here doesn't taste like dairy. It just tastes like generic sweetness. I can't really explain it. What's interesting about this comparison is that when I drink the oat milk latte on its own, I don't get as much oatiness as I get when I compare these two side by side. Comparing these two side by side, I actually get a ton of oat character in this particular latte. Coffee character is really nice. We use a high percentage of cold brew concentrate in this guy to give it a good coffee backbone. And we try not to make it too sweet. There's a little bit of sweetness there. There's a tiny amount of added sugar, but all things considered, overbearing sweetness for us doesn't taste good as you make your way through the glass. All right, guys, so this was a lot of fun. It was maybe easier than I expected. I had hoped that the black coffee comparison would have been a little bit more difficult. This guy definitely wasn't apples to apples, but again, for a dairy-based product, this comparison seemed a little bit fair. We're not here to demean these options. We just wanted to show you guys and illustrate a comparison to see if you value, a consumer direct product that has more freshness and brightness versus something that has been stabilized for the mass market. We want to thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. Take care.